Hello again. Welcome back to SeaTac, and of course the mighty FlyJSim 727. And coming to you today because I found a really great resource for anybody who's interested in really getting to know this airplane. And I got to tell you, I don't know why anybody wouldn't be interested in getting to know this airplane, but this is in the form of a book. It's got a somewhat grandiose title, Boeing 727 Flight Master, and it is the work of Captain John Moktadier, and he is, at least according to his LinkedIn profile, for the last 11 years is a Qatar Airways captain, I believe, in the Airbus 330. He's written a book about that as well. Based in Miami, and he is, best I can tell, an Afghan emigre. And I am going to take a wild guess because I haven't read about, I haven't read this in any biographical material, but I'm going to take a wild-ass guess and say that maybe he got his training in the 727 at Ariana, which was the Afghanistan's national airlines, and flew the 727. I am not entirely sure, but he's written this book, one of two, and it is fascinating. It is billed as the book that will enable you, guaranteed, to pass your flight checks and your orals and all the rest of that. I don't know about that because I'm nowhere near that point, but just get all lit up here because that's what flight simmers do. What we're going to do is fly a few lessons, fly a few bits from the tutorial here. It's mainly designed for people preparing for check rides or for recurrent training or sim sessions, and the inner portion of it delves pretty deeply into systems and so forth. We're going to use some of the just ordinary procedures here, and so today we'll take the chapters or the lessons on a noise abatement takeoff and climb, and then I think we'll do some steep turns at altitude at a normal speed, and then we'll do some really fun stuff, which is slow flight. And it is amazing what this airplane can do in slow flight. It's a sort of exercise you'd normally do in a small plane, but you can do it in a big plane. It's just a big small plane. But it's not generally done, but it's certainly useful if you're planning on losing an engine or something like that. So I think what we'll do is we'll depart out of here to the north. We will fly up the peninsula towards Payne Field. We'll climb up to, say, 8,000 feet. We'll do our steep turns. We will then descend a little bit. We'll do some slow flight, and we'll do some other maneuvering in flight just to see how well the airplane also matches up with the instruction. I've noticed that there are a few discrepancies here and there, and that's mainly due to the fact that X-Plane keeps changing up its flight model, or at least it has been for a while, and so some things like engine settings are a little bit different because the drag's a little bit different, but you'll get the general idea. And what's wonderful about this is it gives you real procedures to train and step-by-step instruction on how to do it. So let me just read the procedure for noise abatement. There's a little bit of confusion in a portion of it because it suggests a far higher speed than you'd want to fly, but I think it's intended for a longer climb. I am not sure, but maybe not. Anyway, takeoff similar to the normal takeoff except at 1,000 feet. Reduce pitch, attitude by not more than 1/2 the angle required. to reach 1,000 feet, ensuring a climb gradient is maintained. Reduce thrust to 1.7 EPR, continue to climb to 3,000 feet at VZF. And I think it, I am not entirely sure what exactly that V speed is, and I'm going to have to look it up. So we're gonna follow it in general terms, and I'll get more granular with that at some later point. There are a few confusing things. It suggests 1.4. It suggests 1.4 times the zero flat maneuvering speed, which is 200 knots, which would be at 280 knots. So obviously I've got something wrong there and I'm misunderstanding it. But we will roughly follow a procedure there, which is climb at V2 plus 10 to 20, which is normal, and we will power down and then we'll pitch down to maintain that speed. I suspect that is what he is aiming at, but I'm probably just misunderstanding something a little bit. Also, the suggestion is to smoothly set takeoff power, the pilot flying to not touch the power levers, or not adjust the power levers once you get past 60 knots. Above that speed, your flight engineer is supposed to sneak in, and she is supposed to tweak your levers to trim the speed, or the power setting, thrust setting, pardon me. Maintain forward pressure through 80, relax the pressure, 3 degrees per second, pitch up not to exceed 11 degrees with the wheels still on the ground, because at 11 degrees plus you'll scrape the tail. However, if you've done your speeds right, 3 degrees per second will mean that by the time you hit the recommended about 15 degrees, you will be 40 feet off the ground, so that won't be a problem. But that means don't go yanking it into the air, and that also means if you want to do a V minimum unstick test, then go get yourself all dirtied up and pull back and see when the tail scrapes, and you'll discover when the tail scrapes, your bird is only going to be right about there. Interestingly, that's also going to be the pitch we will fly in slow flight at about 120 knots for us. So let's get going, and then we'll work on steep turns, which are fun, and they're a little different than you'd expect, is all I'll say. So let's make our way to runway 34. That's a flaps 15 departure. We have set our trim. Our lights are as they should be. Our speeds are bugged. I'm going to accelerate when we level off, and we're going to do our maneuvering at about 250 knots. There we are. And I'm also going to do this because I discovered you can do that, which is pretty cool. All right, round and round we go. Runway identified. Let's see if we can do a smooth lineup here. Probably not. No, I always overshoot a little, but not too much. All right, we'll set a runway heading. We'll fly that runway heading. All right. you know what? Let's be nice and kosher here. We'll set a heading. We'll set a target pitch, and we will pretend to be good pilots. All right, so again, slight forward pressure, smoothly advance the power, checking that everything is cool. That's what you ordinarily have a flight engineer for. Okay, we're going to set it to about 2.15 EPR. Okay, airspeed is alive. There we go.
80 knots.
There's 80. Still hand on the thrust lever. Relax forward pressure.
Rotate.
Okay, now 3 degrees per second up to the V-bar. Tweaking a little bit of nose down trim as we go because we're going to be accelerating. Gear up. Following the flight director. Okay, there we go. There's 1000 AGL. Now I'm going to power down to 1.7 EPR, and I'm going to let the nose come down. And you'll notice that once we get there, with the nose down, our speed did not decay, but our rate of climb did. Okay, so now we're at 160 and climbing. Now I'm going to start to clean up. It's 1 notch. And we're going to hold this thrust until 3000. And we will accelerate just a bit because we're cleaner. And now we will smoothly increase to our climb thrust. And I'm also going to get rid of the flight director now. And we're going to actually climb for 8,000, not 4,000. And we are clean. And our gear is off. And this is really the only thing we need to do. The eagle-eyed among you will notice that my scenery is not quite as detailed as it normally is, and that's because in the power outage yesterday here in Manhattan, I was not affected by the outage, but I was affected by the power on surge that hit when they restored power in a few places, and a surge fried a couple bits of my computer, including my mighty Titan RTX that I saved a frickin' lifetime for. So I'm running, I tried running a friend's Radeon 7, which is good for lots of things, but it's horrible for X-Plane. And let's just level off here. And so I'm running right now a 2080, which is very good. It just doesn't have as much VRAM, and it doesn't quite have as much horsepower. And so what I'm doing is I'm running a little bit lower object setting and 1 notch lower texture setting so that I don't starve the thing for VRAM. Anyway, I'm just trimming out here. Just want to get into nice, stable, level flight. And then we'll talk about the procedure for steep turns in this airplane. And you'll notice in the book that a lot of the procedures seem oriented towards at least partial instrument flying. in that they don't reference outside cues, they reference instrument scans. And I'm a little bit fast here. I just want to come off the power a bit and just get us trimmed out here. Remember, never use the trim to climb or descend. Use the trim to take pressure off of the controls. So to get to the point where you can be hands off. And unless you're an ace pilot, sometimes it takes a little bit of feel. There we go. There we go. All right, that's nice. Now, we're coming up over Payne Field here, and we're at 8,000 feet. We're at about 270 knots, and you can see we're using about 2,000 pounds of fuel an hour. In the real plane, it's a little bit draggier. We'd be using close to 2,500. So that's just down to X-plane at the moment. So let's flip, shall we, to the steep turns, because this is fun. Steep turns. The steep turn maneuver, this is page 28, familiarizes the pilot with the aircraft's performance and allows him to practice, later demonstrate a good instrument scan and flying ability. So this is basically with respect to substantial maneuvers, but potentially in IMC. Okay, steep turns done using 45-degree bank angle. That's right here, and that's also where the bank angle enunciator is going to come in. Turn duration 180 degrees with a reversal and turn of 180 degrees back to the original heading. Pilot not flying will not identify the reversal point. Okay, when setting up for the maneuver, set the heading bug for the entry heading. Set the course pointer, which is what I've done right here, for the exit point. Note that the pitch attitude for level flight is approximately 3 degrees at 250 knots, and you can see we're a little bit below 3 degrees, but we're also descending very slightly, and we're also very slightly faster. So that just about matches up. Okay, now some of the tips are, note the fuel flow, approximately 2,500 pounds per hour with the above conditions, and as you can see, right here, we're only about 2,000 pounds per hour, which suggests that the drag model at the moment in X-plane is a little bit different than what the programmers programmed for, which is not unusual because they've been making changes. Okay, so here's something that is totally not applicable to us, really. It says use the seat armrests. This provides a reference point for hand movement and allows for more precise pitch control, also acts as a support. It's a good tip nonetheless. Anyway, turn entry. Begin the bank smoothly and slowly at 30 degrees of bank. Start increasing back pressure and thrust to add 1 degree to the target pitch attitude. In other words, put yourself at 4 degrees instead of 3. So we're going to memorize where we are right here, and that way we'll always know that in order to add enough pitch, enough elevator input to stay level, we're going to have that pointer just a little bit higher, but not a lot. But it is going to require, once we get to 45 degrees, as you'll see, it's going to require a ton of back pressure, which also should be accompanied by, in his words, a squeeze of throttles, or an inch or so, or approximately 300 pounds per hour. And, you know, again, notice all the references to, you know, what we were doing in the last video, or the one before it, which was power settings. These are cookbook recipes. I mean, obviously they fluctuate just a little bit with aircraft weight and weather conditions, but this is how you know you're not flying sort of randomly and not flying totally by the seat of your pants. And it's not to say that this is the sort of thing that should make you into a strictly by the numbers pilot. It just means that if you get some of these things squared away, some of the variation in your flying will go away, and that will allow you to be more creative and enjoy it more as you need to be. It will let you explore the flying the airplane without having to basically reinvent aviation each time because your power settings are all over the place. So we'll keep that in mind. And from there, for altitude control, zero the vertical speed indicator by making small pitch changes, and cross-check from the ADI to the VSI with an occasional check of the altimeter. He mentions that some pilots are better able to control altitude by referencing pitch changes to the altimeter instead of the VSI. And other than that, he says fly known pitch, make definite pitch adjustments, then check their quality, and do not trim off the back pressure, because remember, you're going to be then rolling out of the turn and then rolling back into it. So you want to make this, you want to be able to feel this, I guess is the best way to put it. And you want your body to know that it is a somewhat unusual condition, and a temporary one. So don't trim all the forces away, because then you're just going to have to untrim them again, and as soon as you roll out of the turn, you'll be unstable. And that is about it. He suggests, as the course pointer is 10 to 15 degrees away, begin turning out using the normal roll rate, and as 30 degrees bank is passed, in other words, as you get from 45 to 30, decrease the pitch by about a degree, and possibly reduce the thrust a little bit. And that should just about do it. It is not quite as easy as it sounds. On the other hand, it's not terrible. And it does take a little bit of practice, but it is very rewarding. And let me just see if any of my practice paid off. So here we go. We'll start with a turn to the left, and the reason why is because I don't want to turn towards that, and I don't mind turning towards that. So first, let me just make sure we're in trim here. I'm just going to come off the power just a little bit more here because I'm a little bit fast. The airplane takes a long, long time to slow down, as you can tell. All right, so here we go. Now, notice initially, I am not bringing in much back pressure, but now I'm going to have to. I've actually brought in a little bit of back pressure a little too soon, but now watch what happens. There we go. Yep. Climbing a little bit. There we go. You rapidly start to lose altitude. I'm just letting it come down ever so slightly to get back down to 8. Okay, so around we go. Okay, now 15 degrees away, we're going to start to roll off, and we're going to come off the power slightly. And I've overshot the altitude. And I've undershot the turn. Look, look, look. All right, so let's get that fixed right now. And that's because I rolled out of it too soon and too quickly. So get on our reciprocal here. And we'll try to do it again, and this time do it right. And now I'm at my 250 knots, so that's good. All right, so there we are. Let's get ourselves trimmed and ship shape. All right, we'll go around to the right this time. Okay, there's about 30. Okay, now there's just about my degree or so. And there's my little Scotia power. And now you can see it needs a ton, and I mean a ton, of pull to get right. There we go. No, pulled too hard. Okay, we'll try that one more time. Okay, now I'm going to wait to roll out a little bit. I'm going to bring the power out just a bit. And there we go, that's better. I'm going to let the nose fall. There we go. Okay. The exit was good, the entry was bad, so let's try it one more time. Again to the left. And I've let our speed decay a little bit too. Just trying to keep the pitch in one place here. Let the speed build. All right, here we go again. Into the turn. There we go, that's better. Get our asses over it though. And now you can see it requires a hell of a lot more
bank
pull.
Angle, bank angle, bank angle, bank
There we
angle,
go.
bank angle, 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 bank angle.
All right. There we go. All right, we're heading back north again. Let's just come around a little more gently this time. And let me just see what our frame rates are here. They're meh. They're enough, but they're not ideal. Now let's do another. And right when you get there, it pretty much requires a lot of pull.
Bank angle, 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 bank angle.
All right. Now let's do some slow. Well, you know what? He has a suggestion, and since we're at the speed, he suggests doing some turns with speed brakes out, because he says the roll rate will be about twice what it is otherwise. So let's see if that's modeled on the airplane. So we'll put out some boards, and let's see about the roll rate here. Oh, it is. Look at that. That took about half the deflection to do. Let's turn back. Yeah. All right. Nicely done, FlyJSim. All right, we're over Lake Washington here. All right, now come spoilers. Let's see what our 35 frames, not too bad. All right, so the procedure for slow flight is to basically bug and fly at the VREF for flaps 40, but fly it at flaps 25. And it should result, he says, not I say, but the captain says, in about 11 degrees nose up attitude, which should be fun. So as we come over Boeing Field here, catch a little gust too. All right, we'll head towards the Tacoma Narrows, and we will find our, this doesn't calculate flaps 40, it only calculates flaps 30, but we'll just knock about 5 knots off of that, and that should do us. So we're going to bug just a little bit below there, just right about there. It's where we're going to fly. All right, so I'm going to start to slow down. Matter of fact, we'll get the speed brakes out, and we'll just come down a little bit here too as we go over Vashon Island. It's going to bark at me now. It doesn't like having any speed brake out with any flaps. So I'll just get it close to the gear horn speed, gear horn throttle setting here. There we go. All right. Get flaps 5 out. Get the gear down in a second. Just line up with the bridge here so we get a good, we give them a good view. Starting to trim back as we're slowing down. So again, this is done gear down, flaps 15, flaps 25. Okay, we can go flaps 15 now. And what I'm going to do is, just as soon as I come down to about 7,500 feet, I'll retrim for level flight here. I'm going to have to continue to bring in the power. By the time we get into full slow flight here, we're going to be at about 85% N1. Just get rid of that. There we go. All right, I guess 7,500 will work. All right, so we'll level off here. Trim, 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 trim. And the nose is going to start to come up as we slow. Okay, we'll get flaps 25 in. Okay, 140, and you can see we're already 5 degrees nose up. All right, let's get close to that bug speed right now. I'm still descending a little bit, but we'll fix that. And you can see where our power is already. It is pushing 85% N1, just trimming out here a little bit fast. Now at this point we are on the back side of the power curve here, and we are going to be basically maintaining our speed with power, not with pitch, because we're ass over tea kettle high here. Okay. Just trickle out that power a little bit. I'm a little bit fast. It takes a gob of back trim. See, we don't want to be climbing. We want to be level, but again, I'm still not trimmed out right. I'm just going to hold that pitch right there. Trim into it. There we go, we're getting there. All right, there we go. Now, I just want you to look outside here for a second. That is level flight, as you can see. And because of the drag model, it is not quite 11 degrees nose up, so it's a little bit nose lower than actually it ordinarily would be. So now, the maneuvers we're going to do are 15-degree turns, and then we will do some climbing, presumably to simulate an engine-out climb. But I just want you to see that this is nothing that should be intimidating. It should be practiced for so you can do it delicately, obviously. But one day you may be called upon to fly slowly. Maybe even in a 727, who knows? I'm just trickling in the power as I do this. We're going to maintain that speed. And that's about it right there. Okay. And around we come. Fly at Mount Rainier there. Mount Rainier, Mount whatever the hell they call it. Okay, we'll roll out. You notice how sluggish it is, but it's not terrible. It's maneuverable. Pilots love the 727 because it is it's got good roll response, and it feels like you can just think the aircraft where you want it to go, and it's not even too horrible here in slow flight. I'll turn a little bit more back towards Seattle, and then we'll do a little climb, probably about 500 feet per minute. I'm letting the nose kind of wallow all over the place here. I should probably give it a little back pressure there. Just tiny little movements. Around we come. Again, we're flying roughly the speed of a beach bonanza here. Slower. All right, there we are. We'll roll out and then we'll climb. Now already we're at about 80% N1. We're going to make that about 85, and you'll see we'll go up about 700 feet per minute. At least at this weight you can do that, and so there we are. Now I don't really want to do stalls right now, but we can approach the stick shaker just to see what it's like. So let's do that. So back we go, and I'm going to turn now, and I'm going to see if the combination of a turn, and I actually want to maintain the speed. I don't really want to drop below the speed. I want to see how far we can load up the airplane before the stick shaker starts complaining. There we go. Okay, so we'll just ever so slightly bring the nose down. And you might be called upon to fly close to the stick shaker speed or right about it if you're escaping, say, from wind shear. And standard maneuver is to power up as much as you can and to pull as much as you can right up until the stick shaker, and so you want to know where that is. So that's where it is. I guess that was about 20 degrees of bank in a climb. Let's see. Let's see where it is in level flight. So I'm just going to get the nose down a little bit here. Roll up the power a little bit because I'm going a little fast. Let's see, now we're descending, so that's not great. So let's Yeah, it requires enormous control inputs now because, all right. Now that wasn't too bad. If you pushed it a little bit more, you'd probably enter a spin, but just on its own, that's not horrible. And there we are, over Vashon Island again. Now, you'll notice something interesting. Watch what happens when I take this configuration and more or less bring the power back to about 70% and let the airplane settle. What you'll see happening is essentially you've got a pretty stable descent. Now, because the flaps are 25 instead of 30 or 40, you notice it's got a little bit more pitch up, but you see we've got a 700 foot per minute descent. If I were to put in one more notch of flaps, same power setting, retrim, you'd see that at some point here we'd get to a pretty comfy V-ap for this flap and power setting. It happens to coincide with your, pretty much your basic approach speeds. A little bit, there we go. Yeah, about 800 feet per minute right there. And that's about a good flaps 30, fully configured. So we come up on Renton. And let's figure out where we're going to land. First of all, let me just see what our frames are like here. High 20s, low 30s. Arm the speed brakes. There we go. You know what let's do? Screw these concrete runways. Let's land at Wax Orchard in on Vashon Island. We'll go over Vashon Municipal. We cannot land there. Vashon is right behind the pillar, right there. And Wax Orchard is somewhere around there. Is right about here. So we'll get ourselves into, yeah, that is Vashon Municipal. And you can see I'm hands off here. I'm not descending quite the way I really want to. I'm just descending at the normal speed. But let's see if we can just drop ourselves out of the sky here, because we certainly are a little bit high. So we're going to plunge towards Vashon, and we'll land right over there at Wax Orchard. I'd land here, except it's too narrow. This is wider. And, we do want to do some stupid things today, don't we? I think I told this story, but I saw a great talk by the daughter of Lou Wallach, who was the chief test pilot for the 727 program, and then also flew test on the 75, 76. And he told her that every Boeing airliner, in case you were wondering, every Boeing airliner until the 777 was rolled in test, and the reason why they stopped doing it was because the 777 was the first one that you could not disconnect the cockpit, the flight data recorder. So That's why they stopped doing it. But in case you're wondering, can you roll an airliner? You sure can. Now, can you put an airliner down on a 2,500-foot grass strip? Well, if it's the mighty 727, you can, and you can land it in a very short amount of space. I don't know whether we can quite squeeze it in here, because I think we're a little bit heavier than we should be, but we can try. We can have fun. And we can try to find the runway. That would always help. It would also help not being too high here, because I really want to make this like a stabilized approach, the only difference being that it's to a teeny tiny grass runway. I think we can do it. A little bit high here. Just going to flatten it out. Notice we're keeping that bug speed. It does take a little while for these engines to spool up, though, you notice? Now remember, our slow flight thrust setting was about 80%. And now we're at about 60, because we're trying to come down, but 60 or 70 is about right.
Sink rate, 300.
And we're just going to ignore that obstacle.
Sink rate. Sink hole, up. Sink rate, 20. 10.
Nah, floated. Now look at those engines spooling up. And look at them not spooling up. There we go. Now we get to exercise our slow flight skills. And we get to creep out of here. And we're going to try that again. I mean, why wouldn't we? All right. Now, I did a little bit of a bozo no-no there. I brought the, I should have stuck with the landing once the speed brakes came out, but I raised them very quickly and I firewalled the engines, and you notice that they took a hell of a long time to spool, and that is not unusual. That's one reason why a lot of airlines didn't permit flaps 40 landings, because you ended up too draggy, and when you mix that in with the slow spool up time of the engines, then it became very, very easy to get stuck in a position where you could not get out of. So let's come around here. We'll do that again. We'll land from the other direction. Avoid those obstacles. I think there are other trees in front of there, sadly. And that's not the way it is in real life. That's just X-plane. And again, we're going to exercise our slow flight skills here. The problem was we were a little too high, and we got a little too behind the power curve. I'm going to come around again. This is about a 20-degree bank here, and it's okay. We're quite a few knots above our maneuvering speed at these flap settings. And let's see if we can do it again. The important thing here is finding the runway, actually, from this direction. I think that's it. Well, damn it, if it's not, it should be. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. to drag it in a little bit more this time. If not, we'll go land someplace more conventional, but I want to do this. Now you notice I'm flying a much flatter approach. At least for the moment. I don't want to get too high. And I'm just in between trim. So I'm going to do a little slipping too, a little bit of cross-controlling just to adjust my rate of descent without making any other drastic changes. And you see we've got obstacles all over the place. Well, luckily in X-plane you can just fly through them, so we're going to pretend they're not there.
500. 400.
Now I'm too high again. I'm going to slip a little bit here.
Sink rate. Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Sink rate. 10.
Okay, reverser's out. Full manual braking. All right, want to see what that looked like? Looks good. That's beautiful. That's with it all hanging out. Look at that. All right, here we come. Damn tree. And damn hiccups. There we are. Here we come. There's a monstrous sight. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the beast from Boeing. Three holes when some of us only have two. There's that little slip right there. And we'll take the top off of that tree. Oh crap. Oh boy. Boy, that was a good flare. And that was a bounce. I think the bounce killed us. Here, let's see. Did the bounce do us in? I think it did. I think that's what did it. All right, let's see. Oh, you did want to put it down firmly. But I'll bet you that bounce did it. Uh-oh. Sorry. Try that again. All right, so let's see if that bounce murdered us. I'll bet it did. Oh, set it down perfectly, and yep, a little bounce. All right, kids. Let that be a lesson. If you're ever going to land on the wrong airport, don't bounce it.
10. Pull up. Pull up. Sink rate. 10.
Should have chopped the power sooner, probably, too. FlyJSim. Not bad. Should have put the brakes on RTO. Oh, man. Is there a tower view? Yes, there is. All right, let's just go out on that. Let's just try and wave them off. Look at that. No, don't land here. Oh, cut it out. We got sunbathers. Don't do it. Oh, look out for that guy's iced tea. Oh, look out, Loretta. That's not a horrible landing. I'd say that's close enough. All right, on that note, I highly recommend you get the book. I'm going to do some more reading, and we'll do some more pages from it in the days and weeks ahead, and I hope everybody has a good week, and see you again real soon. Bye-bye.